All right, shalom, shalom. I'd like to start off first and foremost by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakodesh. Double honors to our elders and the apostles, the great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace, love, and salutations and blessings to those that do this work in truth and sincerity. This your brother Nathaniel for the GMS Camp Atlanta, coming back at you through the spirit with another lesson, and I pray and hope this lesson is edifying. And we're just going to get right to it. This is Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 12. It says, "Therefore let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn. He is clean contrary to our doings. He abrideth us with the offending of the law, and object to our infamy the transgressions of our education." Okay. Now, um, so I had been thinking about the land Sabbath and different things that this devil has done that the Lord commanded us to do or not to do. And this devil does the exact opposite of that. He does everything that's contrary to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay. And the Lord, one of the things that is very important is the Sabbath day and the land Sabbath. Okay. Now I'm gonna read Leviticus 25, just the first couple verses. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow thy fields, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyards, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the seventh year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy fields nor prune thy vineyards. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither grapes, neither gather the grapes of the vines of thy vine undressed, for it is the year of the rest unto the land. A Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee and thy servants, and thy maid and thy hire servants, and for thy stranger that sojourn in thee." Now let's go into here and let's see what that word meat means. Achla or achla.
Strong's H402. Ochla. Ochla.
And it says food eating, object of devouring, consuming by wild beast in fire. Okay. So uh and the Sabbath of the land shall be for meat for you, for thee and thy servants, and for thy maid, and for the hired servant, and for the stranger that sojourn with thee, and for thy cattle, and for the beasts that are in thy land, shall all the increase thereof be meat. Okay, so the Lord gave us, a way to still be able to, properly utilize the land, okay, through the Sabbath, okay. Now here it's talking about how the land needs to rest, and everything that falls of its own, it goes back into the ground. Okay, you don't harvest any of those things; it just falls to the ground, and that's it. Okay. But what Esau does is he continues to farm the same land over and over and over again. Now I put into Google, right, and I said, what are the benefits of the land Sabbath? And it says the land Sabbath, a biblical practice where agricultural land is left fallow every 7 years, offers virtually vital ecological and economic and spiritual benefits. It replenishes soil nutrients naturally, prevents the accumulation of pests, promotes justice by providing food for the poor, and foster reliance on Yahweh rather than human self sufficiency. Key benefits of the land Sabbath: ecological restoration. Leaving the land uncultivated allows the soil to naturally replenish its nutrients, such as nitrogen, and recover from the exhaustion of continuous farming. This natural following cycle mitigates the buildup of uh, uh, crop specific pests and pathogens, ensuring long term agricultural stability without synthetic fertilizers. Okay. Now, what do they use now? Okay. Now let's look at that. Let's go into the synthetic fertilizer. Let's see. Uh, let's ask Google, how does, yeah, that's a good question, affect the environment. It says chemical fertilizers increase crop yield, but drastically alter ecosystems through water pollution, biodiversity loss, greenhouse gases. Up to 60% of applied fertilizer is lost to the environment, driving critical ecological damage across land and air and water. Water pollution, excess nitrogen and phosphorus run off into rivers and lakes, causing eutro, eutrophication that triggers massive algae blooms that consume dissolved oxygen, creating dead zones where aquatic life cannot survive. Leaching fertilizers also contaminate groundwater, posing risks to human drinking water. Okay, now let's go to, this word was a big word, this eutrophication. I want to see what this word actually means. So let's go to Google. And it says eutrophication is the over enrichment of water by of water bodies, lakes. What is it? Estuaries and coastal oceans with nutrients, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus. This overabundance triggers rapid algae blooms, which block sunlight and subsequently decay, depleting, dissolving oxygen and creating dead zones which most aquatic life cannot survive. So the Lord gave us a plan in so much land that we could rotate land on the land Sabbath. You don't have to use the same land. But this man continues to use the same land over and over and over and over again, which depletes the land, and this is depletes the nutrients of the land. And this is why the nutrients that you get from the fruit now doesn't compare to the nutrients that you got 10 years ago. And then that fruit that you would got 10 years ago doesn't compare to the same fruit you would have got 10 years before that, and so on and so on and so forth. Why is that? Because the Lord gave us a land Sabbath that naturally replenishes the land and gave us so many benefits. But this devil, the one that is in rulership right now, is clean contrary to the ways of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay? His ways lead to death. Okay? The ways of Yahweh Shem Yahushai leads to life and abundance. Okay? The land Sabbath was given so that we would have continuous nutrient dense food and fruits to eat, not just for us, but also for the animals and the birds. And it also restored the earth. But by them continuously using these chemical fertilizers, and we're going to go back to this, right? These chemical fertilizers, we're going to continue to read. It says climate change and air quality. The production and soil breakdown of synthetic fertilizers emit potent greenhouse gases, primarily nitrous oxide, which harms the planet about 300 times more effectively than carbon dioxide. You see, when they start talking shit about their climate change and all this stuff, and how global warming and cows let out methane gas, they're not talking about this. This says it's 300 times more effectively than carbon dioxide. And what do they always talk about? CO2 gas, greenhouse buildup, right? But this greenhouse gas, this nitrous oxide, is 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. You better stop running on my couch. Okay? It's 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide, right? So we have here, where they're lying to the public to promote, their agenda, these data centers and these smart homes, as an attempt to try to get the environment under control. But this man is the one destroying the environment with how he utilizes the resources. Okay? The Lord created a clean way to do everything. This man's technology is dirty, his TVs, his cell phones, all these things, his cell towers, all of these things destroy the environment. Now, we're just going into one aspect of it, and we're going to continue reading, okay? It says is 300 times more effective than carbon dioxide. Agriculture and fertilizer used are responsible for a notable share of global heat trapping emissions. And it says notable. Do you hear about any of these things when they're speaking about global warming? Do you hear about the mining of fertilizer and how adding these things to the land causes all type of environmental damage? No, you don't hear about that. It says soil degradation. Overuse of synthetic chemicals alters soil pH, kills beneficial bacteria, microbes, and reduces the soil's natural organic matter. This creates a dependency on continued chemical inputs that makes crops more susceptible to disease. Okay? So this is why this devil has to use other chemicals to treat crops to stop them from decaying. This is why you got the wax and they use the gases on the different types of fruits, to stop them from decaying fast because of the way that this devil's farming the land. Okay, it leaves it's just like it's like the soil is nutrient deficient basically. And when a woman is pregnant, right, and this woman is nutrient deficient, she's not taking her prenatals, she's not eating the right foods, she's putting all type of chemicals and alcohol and things like that in her body, similar to what's happening with these fertilizers on the earth, right? What happens to the baby? The baby may come out deformed. The baby may come out malnutrition. The baby may come out dead. It's a lot of different things that can happen that can cause this deformity or a defect in the baby when the woman isn't getting the nutrition that she needs, right? Well, it's the same with the earth. The earth isn't getting the nutrition that it needs from the plants that the Lord, by the rest of the land, so that it can be replenished, right? The land is not being replenished properly. So what's happening long term? Long term, the crops that are born from the land, that are brought forth from the land, are deformed. They don't have the same strength as they had before. So and then these very same crops that are growing out of the ground are now poisonous to people. They're toxic to people. Okay, so you're eating a strawberry that you think is the same strawberry that was a strawberry 30, 40, 50 years ago, and it's not the same strawberry. This strawberry is nutrient dense. This strawberry is full of chemicals, and these things are going into your body. This is why sickness is up so high. It's because it's something as simple as the land Sabbath. As much land is here that you can use to farm. You can get 7 pieces of land and rotate each one of those 7 pieces of land every 6 or 7 years, and you would never run out of land to farm. But these people that are in power, these devils, the ones that run the show, they farm the same land over and over and over again, and they do it for profit. And what does Scripture say about filthy lucre? You know, the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, so by these people and their love for money, they're doing all type of abominations, and they're not doing things right. Okay, so um, soil degradation, overuse of synthetic chemicals. I already read this one. Okay, biodiversity loss, runoff and ammonia disposition in terrestrial and aquatic environments favor aggressive plant species over native flora, disrupting food chains and reducing overall biodiversity. So the act of not just something as simple as not obeying the land Sabbath and using fertilizers can destroy and will destroy the land. Okay? So we're going to get into some other things. Okay? So let's go here to the book of Genesis. Let's go to the first chapter. I'm looking for, I think it's in the first, yeah, here it is. This is Genesis 1 and 2, 1 and 11. And it says, and God said, And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, so whose seed was in itself after its kind. And Yahweh saw that it was good, and Yahweh saw that it was good. Okay, so the Lord said that every herb yielding seed. Okay, now there's a precept that I had just thought of. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, and it says, give me 1 second. All right. And it's all right. And then here it is, verse 1 and 29. And it says, and Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So the Lord gave us these trees and these fruits with all of the seeds within himself, right? Yielding fruit. So everything that the Lord created has a seed in it. We have a seed in us. That's what our testicles are for, right? The male plant has a seed. All right. So when the pollen comes off, and this is another reason why when we have a spring comes and the pollen, right? It's just everywhere, and you're like, man, this pollen's just ridiculous, and all your allergies flare up and all that. Well, that's because only thing that's here are male trees. What a lot of people don't understand is that it is the female tree that yields the fruit. The male tree fertilizes the female tree, and then the female tree gives birth to the fruit with the seed inside. Okay, that's how it works. Now, this devil has systematically gone across the country and cut down and destroyed all of the fruit bearing trees, which are the female trees. Okay, so now you have all of this pollen that has nothing to fertilize. It has nothing it has nothing to impregnate, so to speak, because all of the female trees have been destroyed. Why? So this devil can control the food supply. But what does he do? Okay, he the genetically modifies the fruit. Why? To remove the seed. Okay, listen. If I tell you all one more time not to walk on my furniture, we're gonna have a big problem. You understand me? Slovakia. So the seed that's bearing the fruit that is supposed to bear seed, he's removed the seed. Why? So he can control the food supply. So the Lord said that he gave us every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the yielding of a tree yielding seed. To you it should be for meat, which means we can eat it. So all of these trees out here that have the seed within itself, the Lord had created for us to eat. So what is his devil has been doing? You got seedless watermelon, you got seedless grapes, you got seedless oranges, seedless limes, seedless lemons, and whatever else this man can make seedless. Why is he doing that? Because he wants to be like Yahweh, and he's clean, contrary to the ways of the Lord. Now let's go and let's just look up. Let's see the effects. It says seedless fruit generally contains fewer calories, less starch, but seeded fruit varieties boast slightly higher fiber, vitamins and minerals, and antioxidants. However, these nutrient differences are often negligible, which is not true. Seedless fruits offer a longer shelf life and are more convenient through some consumer notes, taste, and texture differences. And yes, they do taste different. Okay, a seedless fruit versus one with the seed does not have the same taste as it. Like if you go, like I like melanomas, right? Melanoma is an orange, right? And it's an orange with a very the rind doesn't stick to the orange very well. And I remember back in the day, I used to get them all the time. I would go into Publix or Kroger and just grab me a melanoma orange, open it and peel it, right? And then have the nice seed inside of it. And you'd be spitting out the seed. It had this very super duper orange, rich, juicy, bursting with flavor, taste. And then one day I started noticing that the same orange didn't have any seeds in it. Bland, no flavor, no taste, and I stopped buying them because they just wasn't the same. And then you come to find out that over a long period of time, consuming seedless fruits can actually be very harmful to your body. Okay, this is why you want to find seeded fruit. Okay, and it says nutrients. Fruits with seeds provide slightly more fiber, phytonutrients, and vitamins. However, this assumes you actively chew and digest the seed, which rarely happens with fruits like seeded oranges and grapes, which is not true. You don't need to ingest the seed to get a lot of the nutrient benefits because the fruit itself, okay, when the seed is inside, the fruit itself has to be nutrient rich enough to promote the health of the seed. You see what I'm saying? So when they sit there and say that, that's a goddamn lie. All right, you know, your like a man's body has to, if you want to produce strong, healthy children, you have to have a strong, healthy body. Okay, and that seed on the inside, you're going to produce strong, healthy children. It's the same with the woman. If she's strong and healthy, more than likely she's going to produce a strong and healthy child versus a sickly person, okay, with a very, very low sperm count. A person with a very low sperm count and sickly is not going to have the strength within himself to produce a child in the same manner in which a person that isn't sickly. So it's the same with the seeds. Okay, you're not gonna you're gonna have better health by ingesting foods that have seeds or were birthed from seeds. Okay, but this devil controls everything, and he's gonna lie and make it seem like, oh, But just think about this. We can go on a list, of things that the Lord told us not to do. Okay, I just mentioned the land Sabbath and seedless fruit, right? Okay, homosexuality, right? The Lord told us not to do that. It's in the book of Leviticus. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, right? A man should not lie with mankind in the way of woman. He that does this, they should surely be put to death. Their blood should be upon them, right? But roughly paraphrasing, right? But this in this society, this behavior is promoted. Okay, the Lord tells the woman not to usurp authority over a man, but be in subjugation. This man creates environments to where the woman is in rulership over the man. Okay, and then promotes that type of behavior to where she would be rebellious against her man, even in his own home. You know, so this man, he does everything backwards. Now, let's go to another scripture. Let's go to the book of. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk 2:6. It says, shall not all these take a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay. Now, we've gone into this many times that thick clay is a badya, which means heavy debts, heavy weights. Okay? All right? So it's a badya, right? It says abtit here, but it's a badya. And it says, it says weights of pledges, heavy debts, right? Now, I was watching a video the other day with Elder Malcolm on Robert Kiyosaki, and if you spend if you spend $1 per minute, how long would it take to spend 1 trillion? T. Let's see that. It says these are if you spent $1 per minute, how long will it take for you to spend $1 trillion? It would take 1,925 years and 3 months, roughly 1.9 million years of constant nonstop spending to exhaust $1 trillion at the rate of $1 per minute. Now let's see how many minutes are in a day. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm tripping. How many minutes are in a day? Oh wow. It's 1,440 minutes a day. Okay. So let's raise that number. Let's say if you spent $2,000 per minute, how long would so if I spent $2,000 every minute, if I spent $2,000 every minute of every day, it would take me 964 years. 900.64 years. So 950 years, 7 months, and 22 days to spend $1 trillion. Okay? That's how long it would take if I, and then look, let me go to my calculator. Let me pull that up. All right, let's do that calculator. Okay? So 1,440 times 2,000. So that'll be $2,800,080 per day that you will be spending, and you will spend that for 950 years before you exhausted that money. That's 1,000 years. Now, how many trillions? The U.S. national debt stands approximately 39.5 trillion. Okay. Now, if you take this is crazy amounts of money, right? So if it's 950 years times 39, so it'll take you 37,000 years, okay, of spending $2,000 a day to equal what the national debt, what the American national debt is. Okay. Now let's see how many trillions of debt is how many trillions of dollars of debt is the world in? Look at that shit. $353 trillion. Now, go to calculator again. So 950 times 353, 335,350 years it would take you to spend that amount of money if you spent $2,000 per minute. Okay? Woe to him that laden himself with thick clay. The Lord told you not to do that, not to create a debt based environment. And this devil goes and do that shit anyway, thinking that he can make it work. See, this devil, he does everything that the Lord tells us not to do, and he thinks it's going to work. Okay? So, the debt, the land Sabbath, okay, the seedless fruit, all right, the abominations between men and women and men, and women and men and men and women and men, okay, the abominable pollution of the food and the animals and how you know like look, what are mono is it die monodiglycerides. I'm gonna put the whole thing in monodiglycerides R IDES and diglycerides, because you're gonna see that on the back of a lot of labels, and they have it in everything. Okay, all right. So it says monodiglycerides and diglycerides are a type of dietary fat that act primarily as emulsifiers in food manufacturing. They help oil and water-based ingredients, which naturally repel each other, mix and stay blended. Monodiglycerides consist of a molecule. Now let's see what animal. What animal? Monodiglycerides and are primarily made from cow beef tallow and pig lard. Okay, and then I hate it when they try to follow it with a lie behind it. However, the vast majority of these food additives, around 70%, are produced from plant-based sources like soybean, palm oil, and sunflower oils. No, they are primarily monodiglycerides are primarily. How are you gonna say they are primarily of cow, beef tallow, and pig lard? And then in the next breath say, however, the vast majority of these food additives, are around 70%, are produced by plant. No, they're not. Okay, because your whole entire thing is to make sure that Jake can have these things in our bodies, so you can continue to be the accuser of the brethren. Okay, so this devil sneaks and he puts these things into our food supply, and these are monodiglycerides and diglycerides, and they're in everything. Okay, so even the dietary laws, when the Lord tell us not to eat certain things, not to put certain things into our food, this devil goes back and he puts them into our food anyway. All right. So there's no honor among this man. All right. So I'm gonna grab uh one more precept, one or two more precepts, and we're gonna go ahead and close it out. Okay. So the next one I got is, let's see, the book of Psalms 50. Book of Psalms 50 and 16. And it reads, it says, "But unto the wicked, saith Yahweh, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or thou should taketh my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instructions and casteth my words behind thee?" You see? And the proof of this man casting the words of the Lord behind him is The fact that he does the exact opposite of what the scriptures say. And then they claim to be a Christian nation. They claim to be the people of the Lord, but they do exactly what the Lord tell them not to do. The exact opposite. Okay? And yet, even though this man has given an example of how he's contrary to the word, you Jakes still want to save this guy. Okay? It shows you that the light of the Lord is not in none of you all. You all don't love the Lord. Okay? You love your daddy Esau. Okay? Now let's go back to, because this is what it all boils down to, the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. You know, I know I said I was going to close out, but the Spirit had other a couple other precepts that just came to mind. Give me 1 second. I'm looking for it. Yeah, here it is. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 48. It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in the want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron on thy neck until he have destroyed thee." Now, how are you going to serve your enemy in nakedness and thirst if you're able to produce your own food? If you're able to have access, this dude control the water supply. It ain't no brooks and rivers and shit like that running in your backyard. A lot of people don't have wells and stuff anymore. This devil has control of the water. Okay? He has control over the food. All right? He has control over everything, over life necessities, and he's monetized all that shit. Okay? Everything is for profit. All right, what did they vote in the UN? The U.S. and Israel voted that food isn't a human right, because in their mind, it's not a human right. They want to be able to control everything. Okay, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be able to control everything. All right, and in doing so, he applies wickedness and witchcraft to it. This is why you have seedless fruit. Oh, fabrics. The Lord told us not to mix our fabrics. This devil done did one over. He created things like polyester and nylon and rayon and things of that nature that messes up your body when you put it on over time. Okay, when the Lord told us to wear stuff like linen and wool, that increases the frequency of the body. All right, so this man is clean contrary to the ways of the Lord. All right, and because he controls the clothing, he controls the food, he controls the water. He controls the air. All right, but what does he do with it all? He pollutes it all. All right, so this man isn't fit to be a ruler on the earth, because the Lord gave the things that the Lord gave us are for our benefit. The rules that the Lord gave us are for our benefit. He designed the world and the earth to function a certain way, and we have to behave and function that way on the earth. Okay, in order for things to work properly. All right. So the Lord set up, and you know what? Um, let's see. Another precept just came into mind. Let's see. Dang it. This is Daniel 4 and 17. And it says, This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whoever he will, and set it up over it the basis of men. Okay? So you have a base man doing that just don't want to follow goddamn instructions. I do it my way. I'm gonna make it work. You know, and you took the lowest of the low man and you put him in charge of everything. So of course he's going to destroy everything. The scriptures talk about that. I seen servants on horses. Okay, these servants who weren't fit to rule, that weren't created to rule, are in positions of rulership. And look at what they're doing to everything. All right, shows you that if this man stays in power, there will be no flesh left alive, no fruits, no vegetables, because a seedless fruit can't reproduce. Okay, once it dies, that's it for the fruit. That's it for the tree. It can't produce anymore. Okay, you know, to pollute the water supply, to pollute the air. All right, make it illegal for you to be able to provide for yourself, like the Water Restoration Act. There was a guy that got fined for collecting rainwater on his own property. And a lot of people don't know that this devil passed something called the Water Restoration Act back in the early 2000s that federalized water above land and above it federalized water on the land, above the land, and under the land. So basically, it essentially made all water property of the federal government. Okay, so these things were put into place for the purpose of control, okay, and domination over the resources. All right, and he put the basis of men in charge of this thing, which is Esau, Edom. And look at the state of everything under the rulership of the so-called white man. Everything is completely and utterly destroyed. Why? Because he does not obey the commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushai on how to maintain and keep the earth in good order. And that's why the Lord said, in due time, I will set up one that is profitable, which is Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. So, which is Yahweh Shai. So, with that, I pray this is an edifying lesson. I'm going to end it there, giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Bashem Kakadash. Until the next time, Maki, I say Shalom.